So John, coming back to you on neurosymbolism, is it like the first step towards singularity?
Well, I think it's a practical step. Oh, we got to talk about singularity, but let me just talk a little bit about neurosymbolic. It's kind of an interesting, buzzword. What's I kind of go back to my history. Marvin Minsky, who was sort of the father of AI, was also the father of my college roommate. So when I was there, we spent a lot of time talking about symbolic AI. And as you probably know, that AI, this was, the first big meeting on AI was in New Hampshire in 1956. And they started using the term AI. And what that meant until about 2012 was symbolic AI. So Marvin Minsky would, these theory of mind, would have these large symbolic constructs. We went through rules-based system. And as you know, that, AI almost happened at least twice. There were the sort of AI winters where there was huge expectation and then it crashed because very, very hard to create robust rules-based systems. And even though the idea of neural nets had been around for a long time, it wasn't until 2012, 2013 when people started, developing the computational tools using graphic GPUs, graphic processing units, TPUs, et cetera, that they became technically tractable. Well, when the neural net components became so popular, it sort of sucked all of the minds that way. So everything becomes a neural net, and it's really compelling, right? Our phones, we have neural nets because they recognize our faces, et cetera. And it became the answer, whatever the question was. Well, what neurosymbolic is trying to do is kind of go back into all of that symbolic logic, the logical reasoning and sort of I'm kind of tempted to think about like Daniel Kahneman thinking fast and slow. While the neural net can parse the world very quickly, then trying to figure out how to make, neural nets are great for recognizing situations that you've trained on, but not very good for sort of reasoning about new situations. So what we're looking at in the neurosymbolic is really just an architectural statement of using both components, using neural nets to sort of parse the world, make sense of it, sometimes synthesize examples, and then using traceable symbolic logic to then process what you work in kind of an iterative way. And so we're building architectures that make it much easier to combine those capabilities in a less ad hoc way. And in some ways, what you say, well, that is it, helping us towards the singularity. Achieving the singularity isn't part of my business objectives, but I would say if we're advancing towards if we're kind of in a realm of sort of narrow AI now and moving to broad and then eventually to general, the idea of being able to put symbolic logic alongside these neural components and a composition makes it much easier to predict, debug, the sort of explainability of a neural net. Natively is not very good. Why did it miss? Whereas the symbolic logic allows you to sort of codify, trace, question. So using those two solutions in close concert allows you to build things that have more predictable, more trainable, more updatable kind of behavior. And I think that is very important towards building trust, which, is aligned with ethics, that, as we start to advance and relegate more of these decisions to machines, we have to make sure that they're behaving as we would like them to be, ethically, which is a tough problem. I mean, as we go on in this conversation, what do we believe? Do we all believe the same thing? But these constructs of being able to use symbolic logic alongside with neural make it easier to, predict, constrain the behavior of AI. So it's kind of a tool along the way, I would say.